It is time for Around the 412 with Smitty and Tyler.
Welcome back into another episode of Around the 412. I am Tyler. With me, as always, is my co-host Smitty. Follow us on all of our social medias at Around the 412. Go subscribe to our YouTube channel. Leave a like on the video. Hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. And let us know what you want to see in the comments. If you like what you're seeing or if you have any questions we can answer on a future show, let us know. Also, while you're over on YouTube or if you're on the listening platforms, go check out the description of the show. We've got year 7 of Rocking Around the 412. It's our Christmas fundraiser that we've been doing the past 6 years. Raised over $32,000 to be able to provide children in the local 724-412 Pittsburgh area codes, really. The Christmas that they've always deserved. Smitty and I never had to worry about where Christmas was coming from. And so we wanted to pay that forward and be able to provide children this time of year the Christmas that they all deserve. As well as the last couple of years, we've partnered with the East Rochester Salvation Army and adopted kids off their angel tree. If you're interested in that, we've got the GoFundMe link below. You can donate directly there, or you can send money directly to us. Every single penny of the mission goes directly to these kids. If you want to get involved with the East Rochester Salvation Army, either the money / the gifts have to be at the Salvation Army, hard cut off December 9th. So we had either need to have the money for a tag for the kids or the gifts themselves for the kids before December 9th, either to the East Rochester Salvation Army or to Smitty. I'm in Oklahoma, so that can't happen.
Yeah.
But if you want to donate otherwise or just helping out the individual families, you can go through GoFundMe. You can go through us personally. Or if there's anybody that you're interested in, you think may need some help, reach out to us. We'll try to work something out, and as we try to always do this time of year. But go check that out. Continuing to grow this thing as we're ramping up towards Christmas time. We're already over halfway through October. Pretty nuts how time flies whenever football season rolls around. And speaking of flying, the Steelers were flying on Sunday night. What a game.
Man, you had the perfect opportunity. They were playing the Jets, too. I thought you were going to somehow work the Jets into the flying portion of that. Yeah. But either way, the Steelers come away with a victory on Sunday Night Football. 37-15 victory over the New York Jets at Acrisure Stadium on Sunday night. And Tyler, I'll be honest, I feel like we got to start this episode off by issuing a couple of apologies. Not only to the quarterback, Russell Wilson, but to the team in general. We both picked the Jets to win this football game, and they didn't. We will dive into why that didn't happen and why the Steelers were successful against Aaron Rodgers and company. But I want to start with Russell Wilson because things that got off to a rough start, too. I mean, I was part of that crowd on Sunday night. People all around me chanting for Justin Fields to come into the football game. I was not part of that crowd, but the crowd around me was certainly taking part in a chant.
Sure.
I was not part of it. I think that's very stupid, especially 3 drives in to him coming back for the first time since December of last year. But either way, fans are going to be ridiculous. They paid for their tickets. They can do what they want. But I just thought it was stupid. Either way, the way that he rebounded from that, though, to me was very impressive. He's a former baseball player. He equated it to, having to see yourself get a hit. And then all of a sudden, the floodgates open. He started out 0-for-2. Then he throws that touchdown pass to George Pickens, a beautiful touch pass, by the way, in the back of the end zone. Great catch by George, too. We'll talk about George in a little bit. But that kind of opened the floodgates, if you will, for the offense. But to me, the thing about this is I feel like there was still a lot of meat left on the bone. And Russ even said so. He knows how much better they can be, which is kind of a scary thought. They scored 37 points, but they had 2 drives that they had to settle for field goals inside the 5-yard line. I mean, if they capitalize on those drives, we're talking about them scoring 40-plus points in the game, which you brought up just a couple weeks ago. Are we even going to see this happen ever again as Steelers fans? So Russell Wilson, I thought, deserved a ton of credit for his performance on Sunday night. I thought there's a ton of credit to go around, but I want to start with Russell Wilson just because we were both of the mindset that we weren't sure that bringing him back into this ecosystem was the right idea. We knew what they were chasing in terms of feeling he could be an upgrade to the passing game in the right situation. But with these receivers, with this offensive line, is this the right situation? At least for one game on Sunday night, it looked like, they looked like an upgraded offense.
Yeah, I got to say, the offense looked very smooth and comfortable after that first quarter, I'd say, because there was some rust to be shaken off for Russ for sure. I mean,
And the offensive line, I didn't think was very good early on either.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that when you look at Russ specifically, like you mentioned, he hadn't played in an NFL football game since December of last year. That's going to happen for a player to shake some of that rust off. But once he settled in, I thought the offense looked better than it had all season from a totality standpoint. And I think that goes back to what we had talked about so much when it came to Justin Fields starting in these games, is that Justin Fields was operating an offense built for Russell Wilson. And so even at times where Justin Fields was doing good things, it never really felt like this was his offense. It never really felt like they were hitting their stride and functioning at the highest level. I felt the opposite on Sunday night. I felt like this is the offense, how it was supposed to be operated and how it's intended to be operated, because they got the right quarterback in there that's comfortable with how Arthur Smith game planned that offense. I think that was very evident. I thought that Russell Wilson himself, much better than I thought he was going to be. Like you mentioned, we owe some apologies. I owe him an apology. I said that he was not going to throw a passing touchdown. He ends up with 2 in this game. And a rushing touchdown. In the Steelers, they ended up winning 37-15. I said they were going to lose 24-10. So I got to give them their flowers and I got to eat crow on that one. I was completely wrong. I just mainly it was more so a prediction of uncertainty on my part, because I didn't know what to expect with Russell Wilson. And we had talked about that. Everybody had been talking about that. The give and take from what you could be getting with his arm minus what you could be getting with his legs. But with his legs, I didn't think he looked bad either. I thought he maneuvered the pocket pretty well. There was only 1 sack on the night. I thought the floor was higher than what I expected with his mobility. And moving forward, that gives me a lot of confidence now, knowing in his debut what he looked like. It gives us a better gauge of what we think we can get from Russell Wilson and the offense as a whole. Sunday night was just, offensively, that was the best I had felt all season, and it's the best I have felt really probably in a few seasons, because I don't think that they ever looked that good whenever it came to Mitch Trubisky or Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, whoever it was the last couple of seasons that you ended up being starting. I think that this offense operated to the best of its capability, not just because it was built around that quarterback and he actually started in the game, but I think that it operated for the best to the best of its ability since probably Ben has been a quarterback.
I think to me the biggest difference, just in terms of what you were getting from the quarterback position, was he was giving guys chances to make plays that I wasn't seeing Justin do for whatever reason. Just like, oh, George has a one-on-one, I'm just going to throw it. Like, I trust my guy to come down with it and go make a play. And to George's credit, he made plays in this one. 5 catches, 111 yards, and a touchdown. Drew two defensive pass interferences. I thought he was engaged from the opening snap, and I think that's the biggest thing with him, right? Like we talked about, this thing could go very well or it could go very south in a hurry in this one, depending on, is Sauce Gardner going to get under George Pickens' skin? I thought George was on his game. Like, I thought he had a very good game, and credit to him. We've talked very negatively about George for a better portion of this season. I think, if we want to maintain our credibility and be unbiased and very fair, it's only right that when he has a game the way that he did, to also talk about it that way. So I feel like George definitely had one of his better performances on Sunday night as well. The one-handed catch by Pat, again, just throwing it and saying, I trust my guy to go make a play. I thought that was the biggest difference from what I saw from Russ. But like, just bringing that conversation now into the playmakers, because we've talked about George, we've talked about Pat. Well, you haven't. I brought them up there just now. I thought they had their best day as a playmaking group. I know Calvin Austin only had 1 catch, but again, he was open a ton. I wonder how much more he would have been involved if he didn't have that early drop, which could have ended up being a big drop, depending on the way that this game would have went. But luckily, like, people are probably going to forget about that. Van Jefferson, his first touchdown catch as a Steeler. Darnell Washington, his career high in catches was 2 prior to this game, caught 4 balls in this one. Actually was the first player to catch a pass. Second down play was a little, PA bootleg from Russ, which I think all 4 of his catches were the exact same thing, 3 to the right side and 1 to the left side. So I guess that's the Darnell Washington play, but the Jets started to snuff that out. So I don't know that you can continue doing that. But as a group, I thought the pass catchers had their best day as well, which again, that's Russ bringing that out of them. So I think credit to to them, because I think Mike Tomlin took a calculated risk in this one by inserting Russ and just said, hey, if this goes south, you know where you're putting the blame. It's on me. He wanted to shoulder all of it. Luckily, again, at least for one night, it looks like it was the right call. What did you make of the performance of the playmakers?
I thought it was really good. I'll speak to George first. He's another one. If we're throwing around apologies, we gotta apologize to him when it's due. And in this game, I questioned on Saturday whether the matchup potential with Sauce Gardner would motivate him or if that could deflate him when it comes to game time. And it definitely motivated him. I feel like that kept him engaged from the beginning of the game throughout the entire thing. And the fact that Russ was able to find him on some of these plays and be able to trust his player to make a play on the ball, which he did in several circumstances. It was a great catch in the end zone for that touchdown. Also, that deep ball that was slightly underthrown by Russ if we're wanting to be picky about it. And George made a good play to adjust his body and come back to the football. I think that he had his best night of the season. I felt very comfortable watching him with the effort, because I know that's going to come into question now from a game in and game out basis with George. I thought it was there 100%, 10%, and not even just in some of the passing plays, but also in the blocking. I felt like there was effort on the outside with him there as well. And so from George Pickens' perspective, overall great game, fantastic. Everybody else, Pat Freiermuth, what a catch. I mean, what a freaking catch. Just trusting your guy to get there.
How about like if somebody told me, like I go through the box score, right? Pat only had 2 catches for 51 yards. Like I'm blown away by the fact he only caught 2 passes because they were both just so impactful. The other one, did he break like 4 tackles on it going down the sideline?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's true. Like if you would have just not looked at the box score, you would have thought Pat had a bigger game statistically than what he did. He had that much of an impact on it in key moments of this game. Darnell Washington is great. I understand why they want to target him and why Russ wants to target him. He's huge. He can run people over. He can get you some yards when you need it.
Dude, there was a couple times where he was one-on-one blocking Will McDonald, who's like, I don't know, maybe second or third in the league in sacks now, but he was tied for a period of time with 6.5. I mean, this guy's been having a breakout year. Will McDonald on the other side, and they were trusting him one-on-one to just, and he did. Like Darnell Washington,
he's your skinny tackle. I mean, honestly, as of right now, he's a better right tackle than Broderick Jones, but he's just playing tight end.
Oh man.
So that's another positive for the skill positions right there.
Bad that you're right. Yeah.
but Van Jefferson, getting him involved in the passing game, getting that touchdown, that was awesome. And I agree with you. I think that Calvin Austin was open more so than not most of the night, but maybe that early drop that just kind of soured things for the rest of the night. He did have that one big catch towards the end of the game. But I thought Russ did a great job of facilitating the football and moving it around the field. And that's why I thought that my comments were earlier, I feel like this offense has operated in this game better than it has all last season, but even potentially looking at past seasons as well. This is finally a coordinator getting his quarterback into the right system and being able to call a game well. Credit to Arthur Smith as well. I thought the game was pretty well called. I don't think there was anything where I was really questioning what Arthur Smith was doing. And I just think this offense is clear to me now after one game, which I wasn't sure that this was going to be the case, especially based off my prediction. But it is clear to me now not only why they went to Russell Wilson, but why moving forward they're going to stick with Russell Wilson. Because, like I said, even when Justin Fields and the offense were doing some good things, it still felt like it was kind of just shoving a good player into the wrong position. That's how I felt with Justin Fields. And that's not me trying to say like, oh, he's a running back playing quarterback. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that the offense never felt like it was built for him. It felt like he was operating someone else's offense and doing the best of his ability to be able to do so. But ultimately, it was always going to be Russell Wilson that could operate this offense the best way.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly, again, we're talking about a one-game sample size here, but through the course of the season, that's the best that it's operated. And I agree. I think that it just feels like this is the way that they were envisioned this thing going from the outset. This is why Russell Wilson was named the starting quarterback. You know, just a couple days before the season opener, finding out that Justin had to start it really couldn't on the fly, I guess, change the game plan entirely for what they wanted the offense to be. So I still like Justin. I think that Justin could win them some football games if he had to step back in, but it's certainly Russell's team.
I think he could still be involved too. I think he
yeah, I'm curious to see if that happens going forward.
We've touched on that. I think he's too good of an athlete, too good of legs to be able to just sit on the bench the whole time. When you comes to runners of the football, you could argue that he is number one on the team. I mean, I think there's a case to say that he's a better runner of the football than Najee or Jaylen Warren. That could be debated, but I feel like you would be not utilizing your offensive weapons the best if you just sit him on the bench and don't utilize him whatsoever. But I'm curious to see how the Steelers operate that. I just have a question, strictly because I felt this watching it on TV, and I'm sure the performance and the fact that the Steelers were putting up points and winning plays into this. But that was the first time where I saw Russell Wilson in a Steelers uniform and seeing him operate in an offense, and I just thought to myself, something about this just feels right. Being a fan in the stands during that game, did you have anything like that sort of feeling? Like, did something just feel right about seeing Russell Wilson in the Steelers uniform?
I don't know that I had like that moment. I felt like, and I said this on the afternoon drive as well. Actually, no, I didn't, because we had to scrap the episode yesterday and I ended up having to re-record on my own. So this didn't get said. So now I'm saying it for the first time. Since I had season tickets in 2019, that was my favorite game experience that I've been at. I thought, because Sunday Night Football, the opponent that it was against, the fact that they were honoring the 74 Super Bowl team, and a good portion of those guys made their way back, and that was really cool to see. The block numbers, and then just the way that the team performed, that was probably my most enjoyable game experience that I've had since I've had the tickets. But there, as far as Russell specifically goes, I can't say that I had that specific thought that it was like, this is kind of the way that it should have always been, or he should have been here, or this just feels right. I will say, like, it was certainly nice to feel like, oh, this is like an actual NFL offense being operated right now for the first time in years. And again, like, I'm not trying to take away from Justin when saying that. If they were catering an offense more towards him, maybe there would have been more to tap into there. But I got to give him credit for being able to get them to 4-2 despite the elements going against him as well. And that's not to say that like everything was against him and he wasn't part of the offensive deficiencies, because he certainly was. But I don't think that everything was also in his favor to support him in that situation as well. To your point about the legs, I do think you got to find a way to get him involved more going forward. Maybe this week was all about just like, we can't focus on that. It's going to be Russ's first start. We kind of have to pour all of our attention in the game plan into making sure that goes as well as possible. But like Justin's legs, I think you got to get him involved going forward, because with what he brings to the table as an athlete, it's such a game changer. What's going on, everybody? Smitty from Around the 412, and I just want to take a quick second to give a shout out to our folks at Game Changers. Their logo on the screen right now, right above my microphone. Over 2,000 different designs in their catalog. Luxury heavyweight material. I am wearing one of their shirts right now. Best vintage t-shirts in the game. Head over to gamechanger.la or pick6.la to pick up some shirts. And guess what? Use code AT412. Save yourself $10 on your order every single time. Again, gamechanger.la or pick6.la. Best vintage t-shirts in the game. Check them out. Our boy, in real time, as we're recording this, I have my Twitter tab always pulled up just in case something goes down. Danny Shirey tweeted at me to let me know that they were talking about me on 93.7. Jack Hillgrove is hosting this evening, and he had Faribaugh on to talk about the Steelers. But I guess it got brought up about the dangerous sandwich.
The dangerous sandwich. You gave it an 8.7. I got to admit, that was high praise for when I looked at the ingredients of that sandwich. I wasn't sure how that was going to go.
I mean, there's a lot going on there. Very salty. Again, I think that I was surprised by the lack of taste added by the bacon, and like it's the flavor is definitely dominated by the salami and the pepperoni. That's what you're going to taste. But from a consistency standpoint, very glad that there's bacon included, and very glad that there are the fries included as well. And again, like, I'm not a coleslaw and tomato guy. There's people that are. So that could probably all play into it as well. But if you have those two on there, like, man, there is a lot going on there already without. So add those to the mix. It's a sandwich for sure. And I encourage people to go and try it. Not an ad, by the way. Not sponsored by Permanis yet. Permanis, hit us up. But other than that, I don't know why. Oh, because I was talking about them. They were talking about it on 93.7. Anyways, the last person on offense I want to talk about before we switch gears and talk about the defense side of things, Najee Harris. I mean, back-to-back weeks, I feel like he's just kind of taken over the football games. He just gets better. We've seen him get better as the season goes on. Like, he's that type of running back that you want in cold weather situations. But even in a game, he's better in the fourth than he's in the third. He's better in the third than he's in the second. He gets better as the football game goes on. And we continue to see this week in and week out. Again, very encouraged by what we're seeing because I really question the fit within Arthur Smith's offense. But back-to-back weeks now, very encouraged by what Najee Harris has given us. He's like second in the league in rushing yards over expected over the last couple of weeks. He's breaking a ton of tackles. We're seeing explosive runs. He's like fifth in the NFL this year in explosive runs. You're kind of getting everything right now from Najee Harris. How good do you feel about his performance? And knowing once we get through this Giants game, he's going to get a week off and hopefully be reset for the back stretch, the home stretch of the season, where now we get into AFC North ball.
Well, the Steelers need to be thankful that he's had the performances that he had, because if they didn't, specifically in this game too, because I know Jalen Warren had a little bit more involvement than he did prior to this, but at the same time, Najee Harris having the game that he had, especially going into that second half and in the third and fourth quarter, that doesn't make the offense one-dimensional. It would have been a lot easier for the Jets defense to be able to key in on Russell Wilson in the passing attack if the Steelers offense just wasn't able to get anything going on the ground. Najee Harris, to his credit, has performed outstanding, especially the last couple of weeks. He's off to another, probably on pace for another 1,000-yard season, 3 in a row so far, going for a fourth. And I think that, like I mentioned before, I don't know that I'm going to necessarily say the Steelers are going to regret not picking up they should regret not picking up the fifth-year option. That just doesn't make any sense to me. But not that they're going to regret not like giving him an extension or anything. But man, it's fun to see Najee operate at this level. It's fun to see him play this well, and he's a fun runner to watch. I enjoy watching him when he's at his best, and when he's breaking those long runs. He's just an entertaining back to watch out there. The Steelers are benefiting from his performances, 100-yard games in back-to-back weeks. If this is the regular Najee that we can get the rest of the season, the Steelers are really gearing up for what could be a lot better of an offense and more rounded of an offense than what we were getting. This is probably closer to what we thought we could be getting with an Arthur Smith offense going into the season regardless, like a good running game. But if you're adding Russell Wilson in a better passing game like what we saw on Sunday night, maybe the Steelers offense has a higher ceiling than what most of us thought.
Yeah, I mean, they want to run the ball and take calculated shots down the field. And I think that that's what you're going to get. To your point, you actually put out a post about this. Not that it matters necessarily, but if you were somebody that is like hell-bent on them utilizing the middle of the field, quarterback isn't going to matter which one's playing for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So clearly with what we've seen by the data. But again, you don't need to be successful. I said that was the last thing I wanted to talk about was Najee Harris's performance. But honestly, you got to talk about the offensive line because they kind of go hand in hand. They tie in together. And with what they have at their disposal right now, I'm not saying he was like I don't even know if he was good. Certainly wasn't great. I'm not even sure if he was good. But Ryan McCollum did not kill them on Sunday night. And that to me is a huge win. No snap issues with Russell Wilson, no miscommunication there. And he wasn't so bad where it like popped off the page to you that he was playing so poorly. And the other part of that, and you can touch on his performance too, but I just wanted, like I said, I want to tie in the offensive line as a whole. Man, I really feel like they got something in Mason McCormick. I think he's a player. I think they got a guard for the now and for the future in him. I knew, or I had a pretty good idea about what he was going to be as a run blocker. So much better in pass protection already than I expected. And you know me, I'm a vibes guy, and I think he brings the energy down in and down out. I just love watching him play. You mentioned like you love watching Najee, like he's a fun player to watch when he gets going. Mason McCormick's a fun offensive lineman to watch, like just the way that he plays with reckless abandonment. So I think that the offensive line is they got to get through one more week. Hopefully they get Zach Frazier back after the bye. And as long as they don't suffer another injury, and Broderick Jones is really the only one whose performance you're worried about on a week-to-week basis. Not saying that that's a good thing, but it's 1 out of 5 in the interior. I would feel really good about Zach Frazier, Mason McCormick, and Isaac Seumalo. So I think they're going in the right direction.
Yeah, I'll speak on Ryan McCollum because that one I don't have as much to say on, but that's partially why it's a good thing. I don't think that he had an outstanding game where you notice like, wow, that guy was just like really tearing it up in the middle of the offensive line. But at the same time, it's kind of how I felt, how I feel whenever I'm thinking about how maybe someone in the secondary plays. If you don't really notice them, that's not necessarily always a bad thing. And that's kind of how I felt about Ryan McCollum. I didn't notice him play poorly. I didn't notice him getting beat all the time, and that's a good thing when it comes to his role and what he's stepping into. He had a lot of big shoes to fill for. I mean, it's awesome to say this about a rookie, but big shoes to fill with Zach Frazier being out, and with Ryan McCollum coming in, and he's not noticeable. I've count that as a win for the Steelers offensive line because he didn't do anything egregiously bad in the game and didn't put them out and hang them out to dry. Mason McCormick, that dude is a dog. And if Omar Khan and Andy Weidel have 200 IQ and they knew about this all along and they knew that he was going to be their guard of the future, it makes total sense why they were not having discussions with James Daniels extension moving forward. Not that they thought that Mason McCormick was going to get in this early because they probably weren't expecting a James Daniels season-ending injury. At the same time, if they knew that this was going to be the way he's going to play and they knew that this was their guy, what an absolute stud to get in the 4th round of the draft. He is paying dividends already on that draft pick, being able to start the way he is right now and being effective. I mean, in the run game, the dude is an animal. He's been good in pass protection too. If that interior for your future is Zach Frazier and Mason McCormick, I know Isaac Seumalo is going to be there this year. Don't know how long his Steelers career is going to be, but the interior of the offensive line for the future with those two guys being able to build around it right now, that looks really good and really effective. If they can find some other pieces to put around that, we're talking about an offensive line that could be like what we saw in the 2010s with Pouncey and DeCastro, that pairing with that guard and center duo. I'm not saying that they're the two Hall of Famers, but at the same time, man, they are leaving a lot that makes you feel really good when you watch them play football.
Man, yeah, I hope that we get those 2 careers out of those 2 players. That would certainly be something. And you brought up Jaylen Warren as well. I do think just physically he looked like he was at his best. When Najee's running the way that he is, they have a way of just being able to figure out who the hot hand is and stick to that. They didn't need Jaylen Warren to do a ton, but I will say the 1 3rd and 8 that he picked up was massive. Like the Steelers block a field goal, they get the ball back. Still just a 1 possession game. Yeah, spins out. They thought he was going to go to the left, spins out to his right, and then is able to pick up the first down. Massive play, pick up the chains, keep the possession going. I want to talk about the defense, though, because, again, while we're issuing apologies throughout a lot of this episode, the only path that I saw to victory here for the Steelers was to be able to get home fast rushing 4. The Steelers had 1 sack in this game, and it came off the very first possession of the game, a Larry Ogunjobi sack. Now, the defensive line was still able to disrupt some plays, primarily getting their hands up. They know how quick Aaron Rodgers wants to get rid of the ball. So good scouting on their part, knowing what Aaron Rodgers wants to do. He wants to have 5 guys running routes, and he wants to get the ball out quick. It's been the same thing since he was in Green Bay. So they had a plan of attack for it. And once they were able to make him one-dimensional, take Breece Hall, the running game. Breece Hall is amazing, by the way. What he did in the pass game, I mean, as a runner, obviously didn't have his best day. I thought the Steelers were able to manage him. And Braylon Allen very well in the run game, but Breece Hall made some plays in the pass game for sure. But anyways, once they were able to make the Jets one-dimensional, once they got a lead, we're really able to just start teeing off. They mixed up their looks a little bit and just really were able to get Rodgers off his game. I mean, to pitch a second half shutout against a team with this type of firepower, I don't care that Aaron Rodgers is 40 years old. He still can spin it. Davante Adams, Allen Lazard, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Tyler Conklin, who had a touchdown in this game. Braylon Allen mentioned it, like Mike Williams, who may or may not be a Steeler at some point in the near future. Like the weapons are aplenty for this New York Jets offense, and the Steelers were able to pitch a second half shutout. We'll talk about individual players, but just on the surface, what was your thought about the defensive performance?
I thought it was really good, especially like you mentioned, second half shutout. Thought they settled into the game more, and the Steelers early on, I thought this defense was still looking good despite the Jets getting a few touchdowns there. I think that we talked about it on Saturday during Steelers Saturday sit down, that the firepower that the Jets have on offense is probably the best that the Steelers had faced up to this point in the season. And I think that they answered the call, and I think that they answered it well, holding the offense to 15 points with the names that you had just mentioned. I thought it was really impressive. And despite, like you mentioned, Aaron Rodgers, 40 years old, he can still be an effective quarterback in this league. I thought they handled him really well. I thought the defensive line did a good job of getting their paws up in the air. And how come it's just a paw if it's a defensive lineman? If it's any other position, it's a hand, but if it's a lineman, it's a paw. I don't know. That's just like a shower thought that I just had. Yeah, absolutely. I guess that's true. They are dogs. But I thought that they did a good job, despite not being able to get as many sacks in this game, being able to still be effective in the passing game. Thought the secondary did really well against those elite wide receivers. Like that wide receiver room, top three of Davante Adams, Garrett Wilson, Allen Lazard. That is one of the best that the Steelers are going to see all season. I thought they did really well overall with them. I know we didn't want to get into specific players yet, but dude, Beanie Bishop, what a game! Game of his short career so far.
Yeah, I mean it's not a long body of work, but I think the most impressive thing about it to me is that he was coming off back-to-back pretty bad performances. Like this was the way, and then to bounce back in a game where on paper it should be your worst matchup. Like if you're going up and down the lineup, this was the guy that Aaron Rodgers was circling. Like this was who he was going to target. You feel good about your matchups, I think, probably from both sides. Like I don't think Aaron Rodgers necessarily avoiding throwing to Garrett Wilson and Davante Adams because of Joey Porter Jr. and Dante Jackson. But at the same time, the Steelers probably feel decent about those matchups too. In the slot is where you have Beanie Bishop versus primarily Allen Lazard. Or if it's not Allen Lazard, who's 6'5", primarily playing in the slot, then it's Garrett Wilson or Davante Adams. And the Jets definitely felt like they had an advantage there. Beanie Bishop, 2 interceptions in this game. The first one, I mean, just an awesome play, reading where Aaron was going with the ball before he throws it. Gets one hand on the interception first, was able to end up pulling it in with 2, but just an awesome read on that one. The second one, I mean, he's in the right place at the right time. I think I've watched it like 10 times, the same play.
I can't tell if he touched it.
I can't tell. Yeah, I can't tell if he got a fingertip, and that's why, it deflected off Garrett the way that it did. But if it deflects off Garrett Wilson, comes right back to Beanie Bishop. So, right place, right time, but you create your own luck in this league, and that's what turnovers are. A good portion of the time is luck. So, Beanie to have that type of game, very impressive. And then the other player in the secondary that I really want to highlight, DeShon Elliott, to me. I mean, if I had an all-pro
weekly conversation, by the way.
Yeah, if I had an all-pro vote, he's an all-pro safety right now. And I don't know if he's getting that type of attention at the national level yet, but he should be. I mean, leads the team in tackles, and he's doing everything. Like, notice that they didn't get beat with the deep ball because they're keeping a lid on things. And that's a credit to him and Minka and everybody else in the secondary. But he's a part of that too. He can line up with tight ends. He can make plays at or behind the line of scrimmage. He can blitz. Like, he's doing everything for this defense on a week in, week out basis. And I think that a large portion of the Steelers fans notice it by now. I don't know if it's reached a national level yet. But again, if I had an all-pro vote, Allen does. DeShon Elliott would certainly be on my ballot.
Yeah, he's been really good. And as I mentioned, like, this is a weekly conversation that we've been having. But that's just because of how impactful he's been in that safety room. He's been so good on the field. He flies all over the place, can play in different areas of the field, and effective. I agree with you. I think he would be an all-pro for me right now. This is so much better. Not that I thought we were getting a bad player at all with DeShon Elliott. I was excited about his signing, but this is not the level I thought of play that I thought we were going to be getting. I don't think anybody did.
You look at the safety market too. I feel like a lot of people were underwhelmed that it was him that we got and not like a Justin Simmons or something like that. And Justin's having a good year in Atlanta, but like, we're talking again about a guy playing at like an all-pro level right now. Like, there was other names out there. Kevin Byard was out there. Like, there were some safeties out there that I think name recognition people wanted over DeShon Elliott. But DeShon Elliott has been everything that the Steelers have wanted and needed from that safety next to Minka Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, I just think he's so versatile in what he can do. He's not a safety that can only do one thing well, and that's it. he's been asked to do a lot in this Steelers defense, and he's risen to the occasion. I think that's part of the reason that he is so beloved right now among Steeler fans. Is it doesn't matter what you're throwing at him, he's able to make a play on it. Another guy that I thought in this game had one of his best, if not his best game as a Steeler, Peyton Wilson. He led the team in tackles in this one. I thought that he was pretty good at the linebacker position.
I thought they all struggled early, like because I thought you were
early, yes,
Patrick Queen,
yeah.
But like, man, the way that the tackling in space was a mess early in this football game. But obviously, we're able to get it cleaned up. Peyton Wilson was a part of that, so yeah, it's a good shout.
Yeah, I just thought that as the game went on, he settled in nicely, and I thought he was able to make plays sideline to sideline, showing off some of his speed to make some of those tackles. I thought it was really well, and as I mentioned, there were several guys on the defensive line like Ogunjobi getting that sack. Keanu Benton had got his paw up in there and deflected a ball. I just thought that the defensive line as a whole, despite what the box score might say, gave a really good effort, especially in the run game. The Jets, they were minimized in the run game totally. I mean, Breece Hall had 30-something yards. I don't even think he cracked 40 yards. I know he had the touchdown. But I just think that it made the Jets' offense very one-dimensional. And for a little bit, that one dimension was working. And specifically with the guy I just mentioned, Breece Hall, in the passing game. But once the Steelers were able to make those adjustments and settle down into the game, I thought that it was very good having that run game taken away. It made the adjustments easier for the passing game. I just thought overall, on both sides of the ball, this is the most complete game that we've gotten from the Steelers.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. I mean, do we want to do? I got a little bit of scoop here. I also want to talk about the wide receiver stuff. I guess we'll do the scoop thing first. Actually, first, what we have to do, and I don't know how I'm going to transition this, so I'm just going to play it. We got to tell you about our friends at Keats Barbershop. Smitty from Around the 412 here, and while I may not have much hair, the hair that I do have will not be cut by anybody besides Keat at Keats Barbershop. My friend Christian Circle, been with us since day one. Keats Barbershop, located 401 Burkitch Way, Suite 2 in Beaver, PA. Download the app The Cut, book an appointment with Christian today, or you can do walk-in with Tony or Ashley. But again, Keats Barbershop, 401 Burkitch Way, Suite 2 in Beaver, PA. Go check them out. Old school vibe in there. Absolutely love it. Cannot recommend them enough. Wouldn't go anywhere else. Maybe I'll see you there. Yeah, there's everything's good right now. I don't want to cut anybody, so I didn't know how I wanted to transition that. So there you go. Check out Keats Barbershop. But anyways, the Steelers set to wear Color Rush Monday night against the Giants. If you watched last week's Steelers show or Steelers Saturday Sit Down, you already knew that in advance of them announcing it today. Here is some new information, though. And I'm hopeful that it is the Color Rush and not the throwbacks. One of those being retired after this year. New uniform coming next season. And I'm hoping that's a new Color Rush because I can't see them moving away from the blocks. I think they want to keep those in the rotation. But I've heard that there is a primarily gold jersey coming next year. And I'm thinking it's a new Color Rush.
I already hate it. I know the fact that it is all yellow. I already hate it. All gold. Maybe I'm a hater, but that's because I'm hating.
I need to see it first. And here's the reason, because I feel like oftentimes I think like you do, because I see like fan mock-ups of what the uniform is going to look like, and they look terrible. But I'm hopeful that the Steelers do this right. It's also odd to me, because the Steelers don't really do this. That's why I think it has to be the Color Rush, right? Like it's probably just like a Color Rush cycle ending, and maybe there's going to be a bunch of new teams that get new Color Rush jerseys or something next season. I don't remember when they first wore them, but maybe it's been like a decade, so they're getting new ones.
Well, here's something I want to know with it too. If you're getting a gold jersey, is your helmet still going to be black, or are you going to have a gold helmet too?
Yeah, I don't know. A lot of people thought they were going to wear gold helmets for this one because I guess there's a promo or something with like for them and the Giants next week where the helmet was gold for the Steelers in the background. But I reached out to somebody. They're like, "Yeah, no, we're just wearing our normal helmets."
Listen, I don't want to be a hater, but I'm going to be a hater until I see the jersey.
Yeah.
I don't love the idea, mainly because I think that the Color Rush that they have right now is so clean If I were the one making the decision, I'd ditch their normal jerseys they've have now, make the block jersey their regular jersey, and then go with the color rushes, the normal alternate that they have now. And I would never shy away from any other jersey. I never go towards any other jersey because I feel like that is the best combination that you have. I don't think that there's a Steelers jersey that I ever remember them wearing that I thought look as good as the two jerseys that we're going to see in back-to-back weeks right now.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm a fan for sure. If it's going to be one of them that we're losing, I hope it's the color rush that's getting swapped.
I hope so too. And also, can we? Why is it Nike? What is the holdup? Why can't we just make the block the normal jersey?
I have a take that maybe not everybody's going to agree with. I don't want them to be, but I want them. And Alan proposed this. I said I think it just feels more special if you only wear them once a year. So but I want a white block number jersey as well. But here's what I really want to do now that Alan proposed this. Every year, once Pitt's season ends, they paint the end zones gold and they wear the block numbers the rest of the year. Home and away.
Okay. I like that idea of painting the end zones gold. I think the gold end zones look super good. I understand with Pitt that you can't do it all the time. But I disagree that it would not feel as special because of this.
Okay.
The Penguins had their Pittsburgh gold alternate, and it felt really special every time they wore it. And I don't think anybody now, knowing that those are the alternate or the normal home and away jersey now, they used to be the alternate, I don't think they feel any less special. They're just the better jersey. And that's what I would argue. And I know it's minimal difference. It's just the number. And if they want to keep the Steelers logo, I know did they have the logo on the jersey last night? No. Okay,
no,
that's how it was back in the.
It had the 50th.
Super Bowl the 50th anniversary. Okay, yeah. So that's how it was back in the day. They didn't have the number or the Steelers logo there. If they want to keep the Steelers logo there and still have the block numbers, I'm totally fine with that. But I don't think there's any denying that is just the flat out better jersey. And I don't think anybody would regret if they just went to that jersey and just forgot the curved numbers. And I think that my reasoning is because it's similar to when the Penguins changed to the normal Pittsburgh black and gold. No one ever thought about Vegas gold again. Yeah. And I don't think any that lessened the specialty of that jersey because it was the normal home and away jersey either.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a wrong answer. If they want to it, I certainly wouldn't be upset. I kind of like the idea of having all of them in the rotation. Like saying, okay, we're wearing our normal ones that they have right now up until December. Once December hits, home or away, we're wearing block. And then somewhere in there, you also mix in your color rush or whatever this new one's going to be. So
I'll agree with that. And I agree with that specifically because I agree that if you still have your normal jerseys the way they are now and you have the block as more of a novelty, it does feel special when you wear it. But I want it to feel special more than once a year. If you have a 17 game schedule, I would like at least 4 to 5 of the games, which in this case, if you're playing all of December in the block, that would be the case. But I want at least 4 to 5 of the games in the block jersey, if that's the case.
Yeah. I don't think that's been discussed. I don't know that anybody else does that. I don't know if it's been discussed, but it's just Alan threw that out there, and I really like the idea. So, but anyways, keep that in mind. I think Monday you'll see the last time of these color rush uniforms. I think next season we'll get a new one. Which, if what I've heard is correct, it's going to be an inverse of the 1968 Steelers jerseys, if that's true. So we'll see if that comes to fruition. Wide receivers is the last thing that I want to talk about on here. Cooper Kupp's name now being thrown into the mix. Diana Rossini reporting that it's not teams reaching out to the Rams. It's the Rams reaching out to other teams, letting them know that he is available. They would like a second round pick. They're willing to cover some salary, which is GM speak for we're listening on this player. We haven't gotten calls yet. Please call us. Like that Brandon Bean talked to Pat McAfee about that. He talked about it today. Typically in those situations, with the way that they're wording that, that's exactly what that means. Like, hey, this player, we'd be willing to move for the right price. Please call us and let us know what your offer is. And also the fact it's being thrown out there as a second-round pick means they're not getting a second-round pick. It's the same thing as the Davante Adams thing. They would probably take a third to do it. I'm skeptical that Cooper Kupp even gets moved, but what's your thought process on that? Is Cooper Kupp somebody you'd be interested in?
To be honest, just right away, not really. I just think two things. I don't think it really does a lot for you if you're the Steelers. Like, as far as offensively, a player like Cooper Kupp, and I know a lot of people may disagree with this in the comments or whatever. A player like Cooper Kupp is not what you need if you're the Steelers. He does not play outside receiver. He plays slot receiver. I just don't think that for what they are missing right now, he would be taking snaps away from Calvin Austin. And I'm not saying that that's necessarily a bad thing. Like, obviously, Cooper Kupp is the better player. I just don't think for what you need from a receiver that you're trading for, this is the type of guy. And then adding on to that, I don't think the compensation that you are going to have to give up for Cooper Kupp is something that I would want to do. I know that they said a 2. If anybody that gives up a 2, I think you're nuts. Even a 3, like, if the Steelers did a 3, I could probably talk myself into being fine with it. But when I look at just how the offense is built right now, what helps George Pickens? Not Cooper Kupp. I know that for a fact. And I just think that you need to look at outside receivers more than you do a slot guy. And so when you mix with that, plus what the compensation could be going back to LA, I'm really just not that interested.
So to me, because of the state of the Steelers wide receiver room, I'm not really in a place to be out on anybody. Like, I'm interested in the right price for sure. I think the biggest part for me is more so than the fit, the ankle injury, and that he's 31 years old. I would be interested. I would probably give up a third if you could do something with those couple years remaining on the contract still, like, rework those in some way to be able to keep him around and not have to just like cut him after one season. So it's like a rental or anything like that. To your point, I understand what you're saying in terms of they need somebody that's more of a true outside receiver, because the idea is to take snaps away from Van Jefferson, not Calvin Austin, and hopefully eventually Roman Wilson. But again, with the state of the receiver room, I'm not in a place to turn down talent. I think Cooper Kupp is, still a top 15 player at the position, probably, assuming health. And to be honest, like, I know that he primarily plays in the slot, but if you look at his snap alignment, like, since 2021, like, he's played on the outside. Like, I think he can do it. And I think Calvin Austin also could do it. Like, I don't think that it's a case where you bring in Cooper Kupp and all of a sudden it's Calvin Austin for sure on the outside looking in. I think you're just looking at, maybe a smaller player playing on the outside than you would ideally like. But as long as it means getting the best talent on the field, I think you take that trade-off.
Yeah, that's fair. And like I said, I'd talk myself into being okay with them giving a third-round pick. I just think that I don't want the Steelers to overpay for this if they are indeed get involved with this. And
they're involved in it. I mean, to be honest, like, just to avoid people asking about it, yes, they've talked about Cooper Kupp. Any wide receiver that you see is available or even, like, potentially available, the Steelers have asked about. Let's cross another one off the board. Jacoby Myers. They've asked about him. Are the Raiders going to trade him after already trading Davante Adams? Probably not. But the Steelers have asked about him. Like, literally any wide receiver that you could probably think of, the Steelers have talked about.
Yeah. And ultimately, like, would I take Cooper Kupp? Yeah. It's just my interest level is not as high as other players. And I guess that's probably the way I should phrase it. I am not as interested in Cooper Kupp as I would be someone like Cortland Sutton or like Darius Slayton or something like that, where I feel like the asking price is not going to be as high, and it kind of is more so what you're looking for to fill in the Steelers offense. But if Cooper Kupp comes, I'll take him, and I'd be excited about that move and intrigued by it. I just think that, like you, I would be worried about injury history, age, and then, like, how's the contract playing out once that once he does get to Pittsburgh, what's the next years on his deal look like? But that's something that would also worry me a little bit. But as far as the player by himself goes, like, yeah, I'd take him. Like I've said on this show before, I'm on my hands and knees begging for almost anybody at this point. It's just if I'm comparing it on a even playing field with other players that they could potentially get, I don't know that Cooper Kupp is going to be the one that I'm pounding the table for them to go get.
In terms of a fit, Courtland Sutton best by far in terms of what they're looking for. But the Broncos are right now the 7th seed in the AFC. Like, they're a playoff team. And even if they weren't, they didn't trade him because they want to like evaluate Bo Nix and get the best out of Bo Nix. So even if they fall at a playoff spot, are they going to trade him? Darius Slayton, I think, should be traded by the Giants. And we play them this upcoming week, which is 3 weeks in a row where we're trying to potentially trade for receiver on the opposite team after playing them. But he would be at the top of my list in terms of ones that I feel like are realistic, should be traded. I've said that before. Mike Williams certainly out there. And from a what the team is looking for perspective, big-bodied receiver, can stretch the field and can block. Makes sense. It's just like he's not a very good player. He just kind of fits what they're looking for. So he's out there. You've mentioned Adam Thielen, if he can get healthy in Carolina, before the trade deadline, obviously. Like, there's some names out there. Cross DeAndre Hopkins off, it seems like, from everything that we've heard. He wants to stay in Tennessee, and now Traylon Burks is injured. So I don't think they're going to trade him. So yeah, I think that's something we're getting close now to a point where the trade deadline's coming. Something has to give. I still firmly believe that this team is going to make a move. My best guess is Mike Williams. My hope is it's more like something like Darius Slayton.
I would agree with that. I think my best guess and what I would predict, if I had to make a prediction, would be Mike Williams. I think it makes a ton of sense. And seeing as how that game is already passed, so you don't have to worry about that. They already had involvement in the summer with him, so that they've at least talked to some capacity beforehand. I think it makes a ton of sense. Darius Slayton, I would really enjoy. My fever dream one would be Courtland Sutton. I would love that, but obviously, like you mentioned,
back with Russ
right now. They're the 7th.
He does everything this offense wants to. Like,
doesn't think they're gonna. I just don't see it happening.
Yeah.
And then for some reason, my what should I call it? My secret love is Adam Thielen. I don't know why, and I can't tell you why. That's just the one that that is my guy for some reason.
Well, he's been Doran Dickerson's guy too. I think that he has been steadfast on Adam Thielen becoming a Steeler. He is under control for next year as well. So I guess you'd have him for another year. Turns 35 next season though. So I'd be curious if they even, but like the dead cap, I don't know that they're going to eat $5 million. Yeah, I think if they trade for Adam Thielen, he's probably on the roster next year too.
Yeah, and considering the state of the wide receiver room for next year, George would be in his 4th year of his contract, and assuming that if he's still around, assuming he's still here, Roman Wilson, who even knows what he is going to be as a Steeler, no idea. This year could just be lost on him. And then you're looking at guys like Calvin Austin, and that's it. So yeah, if a 35-year-old Adam Thielen is around in 2025, and he could be like a wide receiver 3-4 on your team, depending on the other moves that they could make, I don't think that anybody should turn up their nose at that.
Yeah, even at 35 years old, again, beggars can't be choosers when it comes to Steelers wide receiver room. So we'll see if anything comes to fruition there. Anything else? Of course, if you're just tuning in, Steelers Saturday sit down this upcoming Saturday to preview the Giants game. So we're not going to touch on that game at all right now. Is there anything else that's on your mind though before we get out of here?
I don't think so. I think that I'm happy to see that we were wrong after Steelers Saturday sit down. Happy to see that our predictions were wrong. Happy to see what Russ looked like in the offense. Curious to see how it's going to grow. We're going to continue to talk about that this weekend on Steelers Saturday Sit Down. So be sure to check that out. That's at 10 a.m. Eastern. We go live on YouTube, Facebook, Smitty's Twitter, because we don't pay for premium Twitter on Around the 412.
And Twitch.
So we're live on several platforms. Join us. jump in the comments. We enjoy the interaction that we get from everybody. It kind of keeps the show going. We had our longest show, but that's just because people kept commenting. And
Yeah,
we
it's
were
supposed to be
talking
30
about it,
minutes,
so
by the way, but
it was close to an
always
hour.
happens.
So
yeah,
but that's all right. It was fun. So just check that out. 10 a.m. Eastern, Saturday morning.
Be sure to check out the description of this show. Everything Custom Designs, our friend Haley Wagner, small business. The link to her Facebook is down there. Still no Etsy, still no website. You can message her through Facebook if you're interested in ordering something. Our hoodies are over there, t-shirts, long sleeves, custom tumblers. But I'll just let myself from the past tell you more about it. Need a custom t-shirt, hoodie, tumbler? Stop what you're doing. Don't go anywhere else. Check out the link in the description. Everything Custom Designs, our friend Haley Wagner, small business. She can do all that for you. She even does around the 412 merch, t-shirts, hoodies, long sleeve tees, bunch of different stuff. I even got a tumbler from her as well. So go check out the link in the description. Goes directly to her Facebook page. All of her stuff can be found there. Again, Everything Custom Designs. Haley Wagner, she does great work. Can't recommend her enough. Go check it out. So be sure to check that out. The link to Game Changers, gamechanger.la or pick6.la. If you're fired up about the Steelers, want a new Steelers t-shirt, go grab one. Use code AT412 at checkout. That'll save you $10. And then, of course, Keats Barbershop. Download the app, The Cut. Book an appointment with Christian today over there, 401 Burkish Way, Suite 2 in Beaver, PA, or you can do a walk-in with Tony or Ashley. And then, of course, in the description, year 7, rocked around the 412, as Tyler told you about earlier. Every single penny donated goes directly to providing Christmas for kids in the 724 and 412 area codes. Tyler never had to worry about where Christmas was coming from growing up, and we want to give back in that way as well and make sure kids for at least one day get to experience the same thing that we were able to experience our entire childhoods. So be sure to donate, share the mission, do all that good stuff. The full mission you can read at the GoFundMe. And then the last 3 years, we started partnering up with the East Rochester Salvation Army. They do their angel tree thing every year at Christmas time. In the last 3 years, we've gotten involved with that in the name of our late friend, Dalton Keene. So super happy to do that. If you want to get involved specifically with that portion, hard cutoff date, December 9th. Everything needs to be returned to the East Rochester Salvation Army. So whether you want to get everything to me before then, or if you want to go shopping on your own, just make sure everything is back to the Salvation Army again, December 9th. Anything else, we could probably take donations up until like another week or so. But again, just need to have that time to be able to purchase everything, to get these lists done, to purchase everything. But it's October 22nd as we're sitting here recording this right now, and time is moving very fast. So if you want to get involved, be sure to donate. If you donate, you're going to be eligible to win some prizes. Tyler always gets a set of Penguin tickets. Our boy Pat Freiermuth going to be signing a jersey for this thing as well. Going to get a couple Game Changer shirts, a couple pieces of our merch. James Daniels Game Used visor that somebody's donating. My boy John Walker, shout out to him. And then he's got a 16x20 Steelers autographed photo that is signed by 21 different people in the organization.
Oh, wow.
So some players, some coaches, some front office personnel. It's pretty cool. So be sure to donate, get involved, and be eligible to win one of those prizes. Again, link in the description for that as well. Follow us everywhere at Around the 412, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, like us on Facebook. I said I was going to take away Threads, and it's still down there. I see it scrolling past right now. Son of a gun. Anyways, subscribe to us wherever you're watching or listening. Leave us a 5-star review. Do all that good stuff. And that's it, I think. So for Tyler, for Smitty, I hope I didn't miss anything. This has been the Around the 412 Steelers show. We'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.